Welcome to the Automatic Patient Podcast, where we help your dental practice create a kick-ass recurring revenue model. Here are your hosts, Mr. Jordan and Justin Comstock. This podcast is powered by BoomCloud. Create, manage, and grow your dental membership program. Schedule a demo on boomcloud.com.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Automatic Patient Podcast. I am your host today, Bentley Folkman. Jordan Comstock is having a great time with his kids today, one of their birthdays. So we're going to let him take the day off from the podcast, and we're going to dive right into it with Studio 88 and Joshua Scott, who is our special guest. How are you, Josh?
Hey, man, I am good. Thanks so much for having me here. I've been looking forward to this all week.
I have been as well. In fact, since I met you guys, it's been a couple months ago at Mark Costy's event. I've been really impressed with your approach to marketing, especially with your approach to focusing on the story and on content creation. And so I'm really excited. Two marketers getting to dive into this today, and I think we're gonna cover some ground. So. Josh, to get things started, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about who you are, about Studio 88? What's your background?
Yeah, man. So Studio 88, we call ourselves Dentistry's story-driven marketing agency. And what that means is we work with our clients on an individual basis to discover really like what's unique to them and what is their story in the marketplace, in their community, and then try to bring that to life in the digital space. For me, I've always felt like it's better marketing because it's actually marketing that's true. It's authentic. You know, we're not just putting stuff out there just to get clicks, just to generate revenue. And it like doesn't matter. I mean, that's the state of journalism right now, right? It almost doesn't matter what the story is. We just got to get clicks and get revenue and eyeballs on it. I think that works in a short term, and I think you can scheme people, but long term, authentic relationships, that is dentistry, are going to be built authentically and with a story that people connect with. And at the end of the day, marketing, we can get real technical about what it is and what it isn't, but in my mind, marketing is just communication. It's taking a message and magnifying it. And so if you think about it like that, a lot of times it's helping practices and doctors back up to go, oh yeah, like what is that message? I think probably the biggest thing I've seen, and I've been around dentistry for 22 years now, always on the marketing side. If I had to say the biggest flaw I've seen, the biggest mistake is we jump to the marketing tactics without defining the message. We almost like jump to the what without talking about the why first. And I get it, because sometimes the why is like, it's harder work. The message is like, okay, let's stop for a second. Let's do a deep dive. Let's get the team in this. What are our values? What's our mission? Why do we exist? Why do we pick this community? Like there's all these questions that go with it. And so you got to unpack some stuff. You got to bring some structure to it. But once you have that message, it's easy. Then it's like, well, what do we want? What do we want on the website? The story, right? Our values, like our mission, like this is why we serve. I remember like back in the day, I mean, I got into marketing when dental practices were still doing yellow pages, and sometimes clients would call me, they're like, hey, the yellow page guy stopped by, they're renewing for next year. He wants to know, like, do we want any changes to the ad? And I'm like, well, that's almost the wrong question, is to lead with the what. It's like, let's back up and go, well, what's our message? And so give that to him. Let's give that amazing team photo to him with our kind of narrative storyline, how to get in touch with us. Boom, now we've got a yellow page ad. And so helping practices kind of maybe take a step back in order to actually move forward further, faster.
I love that approach, and focusing on the why. If Simon Sinek were to start a religion, I'd be the first to sign up. Yeah. I'm definitely a little cultish when it comes to building that why framework especially in messaging, especially marketing messaging, because every decision's an emotional decision. And focusing on the story allows you to connect authentically and emotionally with your audience. And if you're doing that, then you can get into the what and the how and your differentiators and what makes you unique. But if they don't have an emotional connection with you, there, that all that's going to be just, water flowing under the bridge. Nobody's going to be following that. Nobody's going to be engaging with that in a meaningful way because they don't have a reason to.
Yeah, I tell no, you're exactly right, Bentley. I tell this story of it was a plumber that came over to my house to do some repairs, and he gave me his card at the end and said, yeah, like if you need work like this in the future, let me know. But on the back of his card, it was also like there was other services listed. It was like power washing, gutter cleaning, leaf removal, like all this stuff. And it struck me interesting because I'm like, here's a guy that's competing on the what, right? And he's looking at all the other plumbers and he's like, okay, the way I can be competitive is I add more to the what. I'm a plumber, but I also do, gutter cleaning. I do leaf removal, power washing. And so how many dental practices websites though have we seen this where we
Yeah.
just go, just keep adding services like, oh, we got Invisalign. Oh, we got this laser. Oh, we got, and over the years, as we've upgraded with tech, as we've added services, we just add it to the site and we compete in this game of what. And I kind of I've subscribed to the belief that when people are looking for a dental practice, they're searching, they've already answered the what. They want a dentist. They're searching for a why. Like they're literally, you get online, you look for a dentist, Google returns 6 results to you. People are literally looking for somebody to stand up and raise their hand and go, choose us, and here's why. And if you can answer that, I think you win. Like you win that search because the other 5 are just competing on what? And it's like, well, here's all the things and our services, and we're stuffing them in because of SEO value and all this stuff. And it's like, I don't even know that's the game. We've played this SEO what game on Google for so long that we've forgotten people are actually looking for the why. Sometimes the how matters. Like I think, but like if you win the conversation about why, then you can talk about how we do it, like how we serve patients. But ultimately, it's the why that connects.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, there's a lot to be said for that. So when you're building a why message with a dental practice, getting into the nuts and bolts here a little bit with you, how do you help them see that why in themselves? Because I found that that's actually one of the hardest things to do for myself is being able to take that 50,000-foot view of my business or my practice or whatever it may be and say, what is my why truly? What am I passionate about? What story do I want to tell? And then relate that to a story that my ideal customer profile or my patient profile actually wants to hear. How do you walk them through that process?
Yeah, man, that's a good question. It's a really good point because probably if we get any pushback, it's along the lines of, Josh, I saw what you did with Ashley Hovez. It's amazing. We don't have that story. I saw what you did with Brian Bollywas. He's awesome. I don't have a story like that. And so that's probably the biggest obstacle we have to overcome. And what I try to communicate is it's not just about your story personally. And like you've got to have this. We have one client in New Jersey. Her dad, she's a second generation immigrant from India. Her dad immigrated over, left her mom and her in India so he could come over. He was a practicing dentist in India, comes over to the United States, never practices dentistry a day in his life again because he's too busy hustling, can't get, license, just trying to put food on the table, bring his family over. She goes to she goes to NYU, gets a computer engineering degree, goes to work for IBM in the city, consultant, 6-figure income, living the life in NYC. And the whole time there's like this voice inside of her that's like, go back to dental school and honor your father. And so like, man, I could put that video up there and you almost get like chills from it. And you're like, bro, that's this amazing story. And there are dramatic stories like that, but it doesn't have to be that way. And so I think part of it is what's the story of the practice? Like why are you there? Why did you choose dentistry? Why did you choose that community? Why did you choose that course of clinical care? Why do you have these values? Why are you building a team this way? Like why do patients come to you? So as we start to almost, your story is part of it, but I think there's also the story of the community. There's a story of the practice. And ultimately it's just bringing that why out. Why does this practice exist? Why did I choose this location?
I think that's a good point. One of the things that came to mind as you were talking was I don't think anybody goes to dental school without a good why. I mean, why
Yeah,
put yourself through these? Dentists are really intelligent people.
yeah.
And you and I are not dentists. At least I'm not. I don't know if there was dental school in your past, but
Nope.
I chose not to be a dentist or a doctor for a very specific reason, because I knew I could make more money and have a better lifestyle not doing that. And so, if the goal was to just be a rich dentist, there's better ways for people with that kind of intellect to just go out and make money or have a good career, right?
Yeah.
So these guys have a why already. What questions do you ask them to get them to kind of pull that out of themselves?
Yeah, we've got a process, man. We've built over, been in this 11 years now. And one of the things I've realized as a business owner is creative storytelling, creative agencies. It really can't be a week to week thing of, hey, one week we've create this beautiful story and this beautiful website because our designer was amazing. The next week, man, our designer is really not feeling it. So this website and this messaging is like just okay. Um, so part of my journey as a business owner has been, how do we create very predictable, high level results with so many different people, with so many different stories, and really so many variables coming into it. And so we've really had to build processes. Um, Big fan of kind of that whole Disney model. When Walt Disney says it's something along the lines of it's the processes behind the scenes that actually create the magic. And when you look at that, they've Disney is arguably one of the happiest places on earth. If you've ever taken young children there, it's a very real thing. As
Yeah.
a male adult, I'm like, okay, how happy could it be? But when I'm there with my kids at the end of the day, and the parade's coming down, the fireworks are going off, and you see the looks on their faces, and you're like, yeah, no, this is probably one of the happiest places on earth. And you realize it has to be like that every single day, every single night, every single day at Disney. You can't have a family come in and it's like, sorry, our staff is just off today. Like the performance wasn't awesome. So they've figured out how to almost systematize magic. And I've taken that to our team too, to go, how do we take somebody from start to finish? One of the very first tools we build, it's a proprietary piece, but it's called our brand creator. And it's about 8 exercises, almost like a little workbook. It's now digital, so you can all be done online. But it walks our clients through this process, asking questions about themselves, their vision, mission, values. It asks about the competition. What do you like about them? What do you not like about them? Who is your top 3 competition? Because we do research into that. What's your promise? Like, if you could make any promise to a patient, like what would you do? So we walk them through this. It kind of is like a download, like a dump, download to us. And then our team of writers and designers really takes that and begins to create what we call the magic behind that. When we build a website, I mean, no joke, Bentley, like from starting a client to doing the photography and the video to building a website and delivering it, it's probably around 220 steps in our application. So, I mean, you're just kind of clicking them off and walking them through the process. But so they see this beautiful website get delivered, like they dump their story. And in the end, they see this beautiful website with photography, feels authentic. They're like, oh my gosh, this represents me. Like, this is us. And we're like, yeah, they don't see the 220 steps behind the scenes and the
Yeah.
3 or 4 months it took to just walk through that.
So I love that, because yeah, building that kind of content in a meaningful way. I mean, it's different than going to, some, I won't use brands out there, but there's so many like web builders, right? And there's so many like agencies out there that are web builders, so to speak, for more than just the website. They just have a cookie cutter. We do this for everybody, and we'll throw money at your problem, and it generates XYZ depending on your demographics or whatever, and then they move forward. And so when you're going up against that kind of model, you're, from a time perspective and how long, and you're walking through with them, getting to, like, going back to that why, getting to the core of who they are, and then building from that. So the foundation is very strong. Yeah, the 220 step website build process is, I mean, but any good website goes through that. I've built quite a few websites in my day, and I'll tell you, there's the ones that perform are the ones where we put the time in up front. We put
Yeah.
the time in on the content. We put the time in on the story. We We understood who the website was for and who it was for and who it was not for. It's not for us. It's for the customer or for the patient, and what kind of an experience do they want,
Yeah.
and what kind of experience do we want them to have. I love the Disney model.
Yeah,
um,
man, and here's been kind of the state of dental marketing. What's happened was when websites came on the scene, most of the dental marketing companies said, how can we build it became this filter. How do we build a website on a recurring subscription model? Because recurring revenue, I mean, you guys know this is what
hey,
you're all
our whole
about
business
with
is recurring
practices.
revenue. Yeah.
Right. Everybody, I mean, that's like the holy grail, right, of a business is create recurring revenue. So
Yeah.
people are like, so how do I put somebody on recurring revenue, a recurring subscription, build them a website, but put as little effort into it so we maximize the profit, right? So, I think early on, man, dude, companies were doing this for like $59 a month, and then it got up to
Jeez.
about 250, and then now you can see them at like 1,500 or 2,500 or whatever. But it's so the byproduct of that was not, it didn't leverage creative, because it wasn't like, how do we create something valuable? It was, how do we create something up front that can recur into perpetuity and make us a ton of money? And so that's why we have all these stock thrown together, quick websites. They're not meant to convert humans. They don't speak on a psychological level. They're meant to like speak to Google bots, and they're meant to just like be a presence up there for Google to return on a search. And so when I came into it, we almost came up with a different model. And we've seen this with digital ads and with SEO too. All the marketing agencies almost started with that stuff because that's a recurring model. How can we charge for SEO and ads? Oh, and now we need a landing page for the ads. Okay, just put something up real quick because we just need something to convert. That's been the last 10 years of dental marketing. So when I came into it, I thought, all things being equal, so we have all these templated landing pages. We've got everybody doing cookie cutter SEO. The first person that raises the bar creatively and puts creative out there, they're going to win, because the creative is now the variable. And so we almost built a creative agency first, and then said, all right, now let's add on really effective ads. Now let's add on really effective SEO. Interesting stat, we ran the last 3 years of our digital ad campaigns, because we've just implemented this recently. And the average Google ad campaign has about a 7.2% conversion rate for a dental practice. Okay.
Yeah.
Our websites convert, Google ad campaigns convert at 14.4. It's literally double the percentage rate of a normal dental website. And so we're getting this data now where I'm like, see, it's the creative. If all things are equal and we have a 7% conversion rate, as soon as that creative elevates and we can communicate with humans, you're going to convert at double the rate.
Yeah, I love that, double the rate, which, by the way, 7% compared to some of the industries I worked in is not awful.
It's not.
But I mean, I won't say where, but I've worked in agencies where if we got, or in markets where if we got 3%, I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, guys, look. So 7% doesn't sound like something to shake a stick at, but to get 14% conversion rate off of, is that organic typically, or do you do a combination with paid advertising, or is
That's
it
our
just
paid ads
okay?
specifically. So
Sweet.
coming in, yeah, and you're right. Dentistry is a higher conversion rate because people are motivated to, like, if they're looking for a dentist, they're pretty motivated. Where a lot of other
Yeah.
spaces could be more exploratory, more just educational. So there's already this like massive intent to find a dentist, which is why those conversion rates are higher. To your point,
Yeah.
but yeah, those are our digital, our Google ads specifically convert. So part of this is okay. So think about this. If let's say somebody's got you in like $2,000 a month for Google ads, but you're converting at 7%. I'm like, if you invested in that brand, now that 2000 is converting at 14%. Multiply that over the next year or two or three. I don't care what that website costs. You have made that back in like
Oh yeah.
multiples at that point. So
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the key. Getting a 2x multiplier on your ad spend just by investing more in the creative upfront. That honestly, economically, if you don't care about the story, just the economics of say, well, you know what, Josh, I don't care about this marketing stuff, but this, if you tell me that it'll double, I'll go for it. If you're that kind of practice owner, then trust a guy like Josh, because the numbers do not lie on that. I love
yeah,
that.
it's funny, man, because I mean, I get this all the time. We're on the phone with potential clients, and we talk them through like, okay, what are you doing? Are you doing digital ads? And we get this response a lot of times like, oh no, I tried digital ads, they didn't work. And I'm like, okay. And this part of it, I'm like, yeah, look, man, put a microphone in my hands and I'm not Taylor Swift, bro. It's just not gonna happen. Like it's,
Yeah.
you put a mic in her hand and it's worth billions of dollars. I think this latest tour, she was the first artist in history to break $1 billion in revenue for the Eras tour. So a mic in her hands is worth $1 billion in my hand. Like I can MC a crowd.
Yeah.
So some of it is going. I know you say digital ads didn't work. I don't know that we had the right context for it. They may not have been in the right hands to get the return. The pieces may not have been in place where, like, yeah, you're struggling. You may have been a templated site getting 7%, but also if you're missing 35% of your calls to voicemail, that 7% is now playing like 4 or 5. And then
Yeah.
if you're like, hey, they didn't work, I'm like, yeah, they probably didn't.
Or
But
if
if
they
we
get
get,
lost on your site, I mean, how many
yeah,
websites where they go there for a specific purpose and the call to action isn't clear, right? They
exactly.
they don't know where to go to actually, so they burn out. They get sick of trying to find. You can drive all the traffic you want, but if you can't give them the conversion journey that they're looking for, then they leave.
Yeah, and that's the tough part about marketing too. It's so multifaceted.
Yeah.
You know this. It's marketing is it, I think as CEOs of organizations, whether it's a dental practice or a large organization, you have to take responsibility for the marketing. And in every successful company, the CMO always reports directly to the CEO. It's just leading a company and the growth of that company and marketing cannot be separated. And so you don't have to understand it all. You don't have to be an expert in it, but you have to work with people that you trust that can get you there. Because at the end of the day, it's like you can't just throw money at something and go, okay, I hope this grows, because those calls could be coming in. But like I said, the average practice, Mango says the average practice misses 34% of their calls to voicemail, and they've got nationwide data.
Yeah.
So I'm like, your $1,000 that you just spent on Google, you threw away $340 of that because you're not answering phone calls. And so, and then some of them, maybe they come in, but they don't have a good kind of patient onboarding experience. So we lost another percentage. And then I was working with a practice this last week, and they've got a 55% pre-appoint for their new patients. So 50% of patients, they come in for their first appointment, they're not getting appointed to hygiene again. So
Yeah.
we look at marketing and we're like, okay, Google Ads didn't work. And I'm like, yeah, there's about 6 or 8 other pieces in there that really got to be as, and that's why as business owners, CEOs, we have to champion the marketing journey from the top all the way down to getting them into hygiene on a recurring basis.
Yeah, I love that. My first day of business school, and I probably said this before in this podcast, but my first day of business school, I was in a management class, first day, all bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and the professor got up and said, if you learn 3 words in business school that you remember these 3, and it's process, process, process. And that has been 100% true in my business career. Any problem I've faced is a process problem. If I'm having personnel issues, they're always, you take it far enough back and you're like, you know what, process broke down here. I had frustrated employees and they left. Every problem is a process problem. And so if you build the right systems in place to make it easy for your team to succeed, that's where your investment should be. And marketing is no different. To go back to when you talked about, putting the right money into the right process, they say digital marketing didn't work. My response to that and I've done medical marketing consulting similar to yours, but more on a one-off basis. I've seen so many small businesses waste money just throwing money at a problem, and they'll say, well, yeah, digital marketing doesn't work. Well, you tried it in the wrong environment, and everything works sometimes and nothing works all the time. So you can build systems in place and run a small campaign, and that campaign for a million different reasons could have not worked. It could have just been bad timing. It could have been, you had the wrong call to action. It could have been you had a technical issue you weren't aware of that led to a poor conversion rate. And so you really have to put your trust in someone who who understands the process, who can go through those steps with you to make sure that all those boxes are getting checked. Because if everybody else is succeeding but you in digital marketing, there's tons of support and evidence in dentistry alone that this is working. What are you not doing that could be done, and who can you put your trust in to make sure that it gets done right?
Yeah, man. Honestly, one of my biggest pieces of advice is along these lines, and it's not sexy at all. But I tell people the number, probably if you said, what's the one piece of advice for marketing? Create a budget, stick to that budget, and grow that budget every year. So let me explain that for a second. Most dental practices I see are going to budget 3 to 5% for marketing. Really aggressive ones, like hold on, I know, but like really aggressive ones are going to be 10 to 12%. They just are. And we can talk more about that. But let's say you're like, I'm spending maybe 0.5%. I'm like, okay. So the first step is next year, like let's jump that up to 1%, or let's jump that up to 2%. So if you're doing $1 million in revenue, we go, okay, hey, next year we're gonna budget, we're gonna invest $20,000 in the marketing. So that's a very objective decision, which is what frames this entire conversation. And then we go, now it's, where do we want to spend the 20,000?
Yeah.
Cool. Now we're talking about priorities. People are like, should I do billboards, TV? I'm like, no, we got $20,000. Like, what are we talking about? We can't do that. We're going to invest a piece in really good photography with a commercial photographer so that we have social content. We can update our website. We're going to start running some like Facebook campaigns and just grow community awareness. The next year, it's like, all right, so the practice grew. We're like, hey, let's bump it to 3%. Plus the practice grew. Now we've got like 35, 40,000 to invest, right? We play marketing like it's a 6-month activity when really this is like a 6-year, 10-year thing. And if you can commit to that objective budget every year, get yourself up to where you're like at 3 to 5%, you're spending it regardless. Okay, like we're doing $2 million, we got 5%. I'm like, cool, you got $100,000 to invest in marketing. That's literally one of the best places you could ever be, because the marketing's been working, it's been growing the practice. I mean, I put my money where my mouth is, man. We're not a marketing firm that talks about it this year. I mean, we're on track. We will spend about $600 to $650,000 on marketing this year. And I'm kind of like looking forward to the day when we hit that $1 million mark. Like, man, I spent $1 million in marketing this year because I know the value of it. I know what we're trying to get from it, and it's helped us grow a ton.
Yeah. Yeah. If done right, the return on investment is huge, but it requires, like we said at the very beginning of this episode, that foundational piece of making sure you have the right story to the right audience, that you're finding them in the right places, whether it's Facebook or, display ads or search or whatever. And I think that there is some creative. Do you guys play around with that a little bit when you're working with agencies, like, or with practices, how you distribute that content, or do you have a pretty good formula that seems to work? Because I imagine there's some territory based, if I'm in a location where there's a lot of senior citizens versus Gen Z, or what am I targeting? Do you cater that?
Yeah. I mean, there's kind of some formulas that really drive, or not, they're not formulas, they're like best practices that drive a lot of results. I mean, Facebook right now, a lot of people really, they got enamored with being able to really niche down on Facebook, right? So you're like, man, we can target, moms in this age range who do yoga and da da da, and that's my like avatar. So I want to target that. And one of the things we realized in dentistry was that actually became less effective. The ads became less effective. Dentistry on the whole, especially in social media, because everybody has teeth. So like, and I think that's a key differentiating factor. If you're selling yoga mats, I think that avatar, that mom in this age group, in this community with these activities, that is so important. Let's target that. When you're in a market for everybody, like everybody has teeth, the more you niche down, the more ineffective those ads can become on the whole. So we typically try to just hit like age demographic ranges. Even targeting just females over males reduces the conversion rate. So there's best practices, but if we're running dental implants ads in a community in Florida, they're going to be targeted. Like the photography is going to represent a baby boomer generation. They're going to be targeted to that age group on Facebook. So yeah, it's almost like big picture best practice. And then how do we target to actually get the results we want?
Love that. I love that. Josh, to kind of put a bow on this today, I just have one more question. For people, for our listeners here who are maybe evaluating their marketing, what they're spending now, there's been a lot of good info here. What would you say step one, whether it's go with you or go with somebody else, what like one or two things would you say, hey, what should I start, what should I look at first? How can I take what seems like maybe a daunting task for someone who's just trying to have good patient care and doesn't want to get into the weeds with this, but obviously based off what we've talked about, we've shown how important that is. What would you ask them to do first?
Yeah, man, if they were getting into the marketing space and looking for a partner, I would tell them to just really, do some of their due diligence. Try to find somebody that you feel like can be a partner for the next 10 years. The average dental practice right now, they're switching marketing companies and usually switching websites on every 3 years. So within a 10-year stretch, switching marketing 3 times, which usually is switching strategies, rebuilding websites. I mean, some of that's just, it sounds exhausting to me as a business owner to kind of start, stop. And usually it's like we start, but then it doesn't go well. And then we don't like it. We tolerate it for a while. Then we finally decide to change and go through the whole process again. And that's not healthy for a business. Like, it actually doesn't help grow a business. And so the best thing you can do is I'll be real honest, we're at the higher end of the market from an investment standpoint. There's a couple of us, our competitors, we are. I think you ought to take some of that out of it, because over a 10-year period, you think about the opportunity costs of not finding the right partner. It actually damages your business versus finding the right partner that could be a little bit more, but you get effective marketing for the next 10 years. One of the things I tell people is, I'm like, and this is whether or not you use us. If you build a website right, the storyline is right, the structure of it is right. Like this whole Facebook scrolling, it's not going in anywhere. That's like the new normal right now, mobile responsive. If you build it right, all you got to do is really switch out photography and video every couple years. Get new photos, switch it out. Man, the site looks fresh. Google likes it because it's fresh content. Go another 2 or 3 years. Our clients right now from 11 years ago, this is no joke, they still have the same website that we built 11 years ago. They've just done this very thing. And so it's a little bit of this model of like flipping it on its head. What if the website, you had to invest a little bit more up front, but you get 10 years out of it and you solve that problem for 10 years as a business owner? I'm like, just even that headspace that frees up. So I think it's thinking about those opportunity costs and trying to find a long-term partner that you trust and feel like can grow with you.
I love that. Especially the taking the long game on this, and don't look at this like hey, I'm going to put a band-aid on this for 1, 2, 3 years and then we'll reevaluate when I have more money or more time. You're never going to, right? And so putting your investment, whether that's time or money or whatever, into people and process that can help this kind of start running itself over time, because that's the great thing about marketing is there's such an investment up front to get that train going down the track, but eventually momentum takes over, and you forget how hard it was 5 years ago, because now all you're seeing is the momentum of the train running. But it takes a while, and it takes effort, and it takes time, process, and a little bit of pain and money to get that off the ground. And so the faster you get that started, the faster you build that long-term reoccurring lead generation and patient acquisition and brand identity. It starts building on itself and it compounds over time, for sure.
Yeah, dude, you are exactly right. Sometimes I tell practice, this is the advice I give them. The first year with an effective marketing strategy, I think you'll feel it. I think you'll look at it and go, I like what we built. Yeah, I think it's working. Year 2, you're kind of like, yeah, we're getting some traction. We're feeling it now. Like, I'm real happy with this. Year 3, you're like, dude, I feel like we got so much momentum. Like, maybe we stop the marketing, right? I'm like, no. But that's really thinking about it from that lens is going to be so helpful, and it's so healthy to go, we're pushing this boulder. It's going to take some time, but once that momentum kicks in, and now we're leveraging gravity in our favor, I think most practices could become the go-to practice within 3 years. Most just give up and switch gears like before that.
Yeah. No, I that makes a ton of sense. Josh, I want to say thanks for taking the time. I know I learned a ton. I really love your approach and Studio 88's approach to marketing with the content first, the story focused efforts that you guys put in. Where can people learn more about Studio 88 and get in touch with you guys?
Yeah, man, if you guys want to reach out to me personally, I'm on Instagram at Joshua Scott. I'm still in that account. So DM me, say, hey, tell me you heard this episode. I'll definitely respond to you. To learn more about Studio 88 and our approach to that, go to the website. It's s8e8.com. The letter S, the number 8, the letter E, the number 8.com. You can find out what we do, even submit, just a text into the team. We'll get right back to you and set something up to walk you through all the stuff.
Awesome. I hope that listeners, you take advantage of this. Josh is awesome. His team, you can see the passion when I've talked to you and your team in person, and we really dive into this. There's so many agencies out there that dream of being as good at what they do as what these guys are. And so I hope you take advantage of this opportunity to reach out, and you won't regret it from my perspective. So with that being said, everybody, we're excited to put a bow on this episode, and we'll have Jordan with us on our next one. So for those of you missing his sultry voice, you'll get it back in a week. So with that being said, everybody, have a good one and rock on.